Digicams are back. And when I say Digicam, I mean digital point-and-shoot cameras from the 2000s. I have dug out my digital camera from 2010. This is the Canon Powershot SD 3500 IS. I bought this camera for $330, brand new. I looked online and it is going for $230, 13 years later. So this might be one of the better camera investments I've made. I will say in 2010, I was not into photography. This was my first camera to myself. So I've been using mine for a bit and I quickly noticed a huge reason for carrying around my Digicam everywhere. First of all is the tiny, tiny size of this thing. It's so small and so light, it's so easy to carry, and that has an impact when you're taking a picture of somebody. Because it feels so small, and because it's not someone's phone, so it's not gonna get posted immediately, the way people respond in the photo is actually very different than if I point a large camera at them or point my phone at them. The second thing that I absolutely love, everybody knows how to use one.
It's going on my IG.
My friends would ask me, hey, can I take a picture on your camera? And they started taking pictures outside of my hands that would be memories I could save. It's so much more fun when everyone's involved in taking the picture. What's fun though is that you still can get pretty good pictures on it. They don't hold up if you're like pixel peeping, but we went to the Salt Flats and took some photos that I really liked. And yes, they have this digital noise, but it's kind of part of the whole thing. I also did a photo shoot for a friend of mine who's launching a clothing company, and I used this camera exclusively to take those photos. The goal for that photo shoot was to create like this photo collage for the website, and I think the aesthetic that this camera gives is perfect for it. Here are the specs on this camera, but in 2023, it's not really about getting a high quality, sharp image. There's no shooting in RAW on this camera. You can only shoot in JPEG, and the images are pretty noisy. The video quality this shoots in is 1280 by 720, and it's 30 frames a second, which you cannot change. So you're stuck at that frame rate, and you can't go any higher than that resolution. The physical build of this camera is really satisfying. It's so small and light. I'm still amazed that this camera is completely touchscreen, and that the touchscreen is actually like responsive and nice, and still works after 13 years. The autofocus on this is weirdly good and bad at the same time. It has focus tracking, so if you just touch the screen, it will track a spot, and it actually stays on that spot pretty well, and is just impressive for 2010 to me. The part about it that's bad is that if you're shooting video, as soon as you hit record, your focusing is locked in and you can't manually focus from there. And when you zoom, it's not going to stay focused. So you zoom in and it gets really blurry. But that's kind of the beautiful part about this camera, is that the photos are perfectly imperfect. The lens is about 24 to 105. You can take selfies with your friends, or you can zoom in and get a little bit better of a portrait. The lens is a variable aperture, so at the widest point, it's at 2.8, and as you zoom in, it goes all the way to 5.6. So if you're trying to get really narrow depth of field, it can be pretty difficult with this camera. And then it has these color profiles. I've been shooting mostly in the positive film color profile. This camera does tend to overexpose a lot, so I make sure to adjust my exposure so I'm shooting at least a third of a stop under where it wants to. It seems like every time the standard for image quality goes up, or even just changes over time. So for example, our current standard right now is basically like iPhone quality photos. And there are certain things about iPhone photos that you can see them as iPhone photos. There's HDR processing, there's noise reduction, there's sharpening. There are all these things that just create the way iPhone photos look. And as soon as we reach this threshold where the very accessible photos have a certain look, suddenly the technology that's now antiquated and that gets poorer quality looking images is a clear creative choice when you decide to use it. So using and looking at Digicam footage may look really grainy, and the lensing is pretty poor, and the dynamic range is pretty bad. But the cool thing about it is that it is a creative choice now. And I think the same thing happened with VHS, and the same thing has happened with film photography. And I think as long as the standard of image changes, one day it'll be really cool to shoot on old iPhones and be like, remember when it looked like this? It's the nostalgia of it. There are a lot of cameras people are looking at, and the prices are going up on a lot of these digital cameras. And this is one I feel like has been underrated. I don't think people have noticed it quite as much, and its price seems to be a little bit lower than some of the other cameras that are the Canon Powershots of that era. So I am making this video to say that this is a great camera, and if you're looking to buy one, I think this is a really great option for an older one. It might be a little bit on the expensive side, but I think most things you look for that are like this are going to be in that price range now. But more importantly, if you have an old point and shoot in your house, you now know that it's worth something. And even if it's not the popular Canon Powershot or whatever is getting sold or whatever people are using on Instagram, it's going to give you pretty fun images, and you can just play around with one of your old cameras laying around. And I think that's always conducive to creativity. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video and subscribe to the channel, you can get a free hug, but not one of the hoodies. You'll have to buy one of those. Okay, bye.
Oh my god, dude. This is so good.
Let's see. Oh, hell yeah. Let me do one.
Yeah, out there. Brand.
Holy shit, that's awesome.
Oh, that's getting framed.